All right, so welcome to this deep dive, and today we're going to be looking at daily routines. Everyone has them, and it's something we talk about pretty often, right?
It is. It's one of those universal topics that everyone can relate to. Whether you're traveling, working, or just chatting with friends, being able to talk about your day in English is essential.
Absolutely, and that's kind of what we're going to do today. Go on this deep dive,
Uh,
and we've got a whole bunch of sources we pulled from articles, YouTube videos, even some forum posts, all about daily routines.
yeah, so we're hoping to uncover those key phrases, the common activities, maybe even some cultural differences you might encounter when talking about daily routines in English.
Right, because it's not always the same everywhere you go.
Exactly.
So let's just jump right in. First things first, what are the typical things people do every day? What does a normal routine look like?
Well, most of the sources pointed to the usual suspects. Waking up, getting ready, breakfast, then it's off to work or school for most people. Lunch break, maybe run some errands, bit of time to relax, then dinner, spend time with family, work on some hobbies, and finally the evening routine before heading back to sleep. Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But there was this emphasis on mindfulness that I noticed popping up in a lot of the sources. A lot of folks were mentioning meditation as part of their morning routine.
It's interesting, isn't it? Seems like that whole idea of incorporating mindfulness is becoming more and more common these days, not just a trend anymore.
Yeah, maybe it's just becoming like a staple, like part of the routine, just like brushing your teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
And think about it, having a calm and focused mind, that can actually be beneficial for language learning too.
Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't even thought about that. The connection between mindfulness and how it might actually help you learn a language more effectively. I wonder if people who meditate actually learn languages faster.
That's a fascinating thought, something worth exploring. But for now, let's shift gears a bit and focus on the language aspect. How do we actually talk about these activities in English?
All right, so let's break it down. The sources offered a bunch of helpful phrases, like for waking up, you see things like, I wake up at, or I get up early, I get up late. And of course, there's the classic, I hit the snooze button a few times.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
And then, for commuting, I take the bus, or the train, or the car, or my commute is. And I think everyone can relate to, I get stuck in traffic.
Definitely, yeah, that's a universal experience.
Right. And some of the sources even suggested some modern alternatives to make things a little more interesting. Like, instead of saying busy, you could say swamped.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It definitely paints a more, vivid picture.
And then instead of date, how about rendezvous?
Ooh, I like that. A little more sophisticated.
Right. Just like small tweaks, but they can make a big difference. Now, one thing that I always get tripped up on is the difference between eat breakfast and have breakfast. The sources mention it as a common point of confusion for English learners.
Yeah, it's a subtle distinction that can be a little tricky. Technically, both are correct, but have breakfast is generally preferred in everyday conversation.
Interesting. Why is that?
Well, think of it this way. Eat is really just focused on the act of consuming food, whereas have implies more of a leisurely experience. It's like saying, I had a cup of coffee this morning versus I ate a cup of coffee this morning.
Ah, okay. I think I see what you mean.
Right. It's about capturing the whole experience of a shared mealtime.
Got it. So it's not just about the food itself, it's about the whole experience.
Exactly. And those little nuances, they really elevate your English. So are you ready to see these phrases in action, like in actual routines?
Absolutely. Let's dive into some real-life examples.
Okay, perfect. The sources provided a few example routines, and each one kind of highlights different aspects of daily life. But one that really stood out to me was Brandon. He's a marketing director from San Francisco, 36 years old, leads a pretty busy life, but still manages to find time for things he enjoys.
Okay, so someone our listener might actually run into in their own life. What does his evening look like? What's his routine like?
Well, typically, Brandon finishes work around 6 p.m., swings by the grocery store, and gets home around 7 to start dinner.
Okay, and here's where we get a little glimpse into his cultural background, right? He often cooks pasta because his wife loves it.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, isn't it, how just a simple detail like that can reveal so much. Food is often a reflection of our cultural heritage and our personal preferences.
Definitely adds a personal touch.
Huh.
So what happens after dinner?
Well, after dinner, Brandon does the dishes while his wife feeds their 2 cats, Milk and Honey. And then it's shower time, brushing his teeth, changing into pajamas, the usual routine.
But even in the ordinary, you find these little details that make it unique. Like the cat names, Milk and Honey, it makes you curious.
Right. Makes you wonder about their personalities, what they're like.
Right. It goes beyond just listing activities. It kind of starts to tell a story.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what makes it interesting for the listener. It's not just about learning phrases. It's about understanding how to use them to paint a picture, to tell a compelling narrative. But before we get too caught up in the storytelling aspect, let's circle back to those cultural differences we touched on earlier.
Oh, yes. That's such a crucial part of mastering any language, understanding those cultural nuances
Yeah.
that shape how people communicate.
Exactly. And the sources contrasted meal times in the UK and Spain, for example.
Yeah.
In the UK, lunch is typically lighter, with dinner being the main event.
Whereas in Spain, it's flipped. They have a heavier lunch and a lighter dinner. So, imagine you're traveling to Spain, expecting a big dinner spread, and then you're greeted with just a simple salad. It could be a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, that's a good point. Understanding those differences can be incredibly helpful when traveling or even just working internationally, right? It's not just about avoiding awkward situations. It's about showing respect for the culture you're interacting with. And speaking of cultural experiences, we can't forget about the iconic English breakfast.
Ah, yes. The full spread, bacon, sausages, eggs, beans, toast, the whole works. Definitely a cultural experience worth having.
Well, for sure, but contrary to popular belief, it's not an everyday thing.
No, it's more of a special occasion treat.
Right, so you won't find most Brits starting their day with a mountain of fried food, but hey, it's certainly a memorable image.
Absolutely. It's those vivid details that make learning a language so fascinating. We've covered quite a bit already. Typical activities, useful phrases, cultural insights. What stands out to you the most so far?
Honestly, for me, it's that reminder that even the simplest routines can reveal so much about a person's culture, their values, even their personality. It makes me want to hear more about those individual experiences. What about you?
I'm really intrigued by this idea that how we structure our day can actually influence our language learning. Maybe those who prioritize mindfulness do have an advantage when it comes to picking up new languages. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still have more routines to explore, more phrases to unpack, and maybe even more cultural surprises to uncover.
You're right. Let's delve deeper into these fascinating routines and see what other gems we can unearth.
Ready for some routines that break the mold?
Absolutely. Hit me with it.
Okay, so let's take a look at this YouTube video called My Day Improve Your English. It basically follows a student's routine and kind of gives us a glimpse into how they balance, studies and their personal life.
I'm always curious about, how students in other parts of the world, structure their days. What stood out to you about this one?
Well, this particular student, they start their day pretty early, 6:30 a.m., with 15 minutes of meditation before joining their parents for breakfast.
Meditation first thing in the morning? That's impressive, especially with a busy student schedule. Really shows their commitment to mindfulness.
It does make you wonder if, that could be a factor in language learning as well. Maybe improved focus and reduced stress could actually lead to better language acquisition.
That's a really interesting thought. Maybe something for our listener to consider as they, embark on their own language journey. But tell me, what does the student fuel their morning with? What do they have for breakfast?
They mentioned enjoying fresh orange juice.
Oh, that sounds refreshing. And healthy. Definitely a better choice than my usual grab-and-go coffee. So what's next on their agenda after breakfast?
After breakfast, it's time to check the timetable and get ready for school. They take the metro, which they described as being pretty packed in the mornings.
Ah, the joys of public transportation during rush hour. I can practically feel the squeeze of commuters myself.
And once at school, they dive into a variety of classes: science, math, history. The student specifically mentioned a passion for history, highlighting how it connects us to the past and helps us understand, how things have evolved.
Yeah, it's amazing how certain subjects just resonate with people differently. For me, history always felt like piecing together a giant puzzle, trying to make sense of the past.
And for this student, that seems to be the appeal. They even mentioned having 5 periods of history a week.
Wow, that's a lot of history. Clearly a subject they really connect with. What about lunchtime? Any interesting observations there?
Lunchtime is a welcome break, filled with laughter and shared meals with friends at the school cafeteria. It's a good reminder that, those simple pleasures of student life, they're universal, no matter where you are in the world.
Absolutely. There's something special about those shared moments with friends. It just transcends cultural boundaries.
After lunch, it's back to the books for more classes. Then, it's homeward bound, tackling homework and settling in for a family dinner at 7 p.m. A pretty standard after-school routine.
Yeah, but I'm sure there are some unique elements that make it their own. What makes this routine stand out?
Well, the student mentioned that their mom always surprises them and their dad with dessert. This time, it was cheesecake.
Cheesecake. Now that's a sweet surprise I can get behind.
It adds a nice touch of warmth and spontaneity to an otherwise structured routine.
I agree. It's those little details that really reveal the personality and the dynamics within a family. What does the student do to unwind after dinner?
They mentioned enjoying some relaxation time, either playing games or getting lost in a good book, a peaceful way to wind down before bed.
Sounds like a great way to de-stress and recharge after a busy day. Do they have a set bedtime?
They stick to a consistent bedtime of 9 p.m., pajamas on, teeth brushed, lights out, and off to sleep.
Early to bed, early to rise. A sound strategy, especially for a busy student juggling academics and, personal life. Now, let's switch gears a bit and look at another routine from the YouTube sources. This one features a homemaker, offering a different perspective on daily life.
All right, so this homemaker's day begins at 7 a.m., waking up and heading straight to the kitchen to prepare breakfast for the family.
A true multitasker, ensuring everyone starts their day with a nutritious meal, speaks to their dedication and care for their family.
It's a heartwarming start to the day, for sure. Once the kids are off to school, the homemaker focuses on tidying up the house, cleaning, organizing, creating a welcoming environment for the family.
It's more than just chores, isn't it? It's about creating a sense of comfort and harmony in the home.
Exactly. Mid-morning brings a trip to the grocery store, carefully selecting fresh produce and other essentials for the week. It's all about planning ahead and making healthy choices for the family.
Meal planning in action.
Yeah.
It's impressive how they manage to juggle so many responsibilities.
Back at home, it's lunchtime preparation. The focus is on healthy and balanced meals, really highlighting their commitment to the well-being of their family.
It's inspiring to see that level of dedication to healthy living, even amidst a busy schedule. What does the homemaker do while lunch is cooking?
They take a moment to nurture their green thumb, watering plants and tending to their small garden.
Ah, a touch of nature amidst the hustle and bustle of daily life. Those little moments of peace and connection with nature can make a big difference.
Absolutely. After lunch, it's time to help the kids with their homework. It's a chance for bonding, learning, and having fun together. Education takes center stage.
It's wonderful how they integrate family time with educational support. Creates a very supportive and encouraging environment for the kids. What happens once homework is done?
They prioritize quality time as a family, engaging in activities like playing games or exploring creative projects. It's all about nurturing those family connections and creating lasting memories.
It's heartwarming to see how they prioritize family time, even with a packed schedule. As the afternoon progresses, what's next on their agenda?
The homemaker shifts gears to prepare dinner. They enjoy experimenting with new recipes, combining ingredients, creating tasty meals for everyone to savor. It's about turning cooking into an art form, infusing each dish with love and care.
It sounds like they find real joy in the process of cooking. Makes it more than just a chore. How do they spend their evenings?
Evenings are dedicated to family time, sharing stories, enjoying dinner together, watching movies, reading books, a time for connection and togetherness.
It's beautiful how they prioritize those shared moments, creating a sense of warmth and belonging within the family. What does their bedtime routine look like?
Before bed, the kids are tucked in, feeling loved and secure. It's a comforting end to the day, filled with warmth and affection. Once the kids are asleep, the homemaker takes a moment to relax, reflecting on the day before turning in for the night.
It's inspiring to see how fulfilling a homemaker's routine can be. So much love and care poured into every task, creating a nurturing and supportive environment for their family. But remember, these are just 2 examples from our YouTube sources. We also have insights from a forum post where someone was asking for advice on describing their routine in English.
That's right. And it's a great reminder that everyone's routine is unique and worth sharing.
Let's dive into that forum post and see what we can learn from those personal experiences. What stood out to you? So this forum post, it's all about people sharing how they would describe their daily routines in English. What kind of insights did we find there?
It's fascinating how much you can actually glean about someone just from hearing about their daily activities. And one person shared their routine as a civil engineering student.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, the challenges of staying focused and energized during those long hours of studying and working, and how they make it a point to fit in some exercise and mindfulness each morning.
Oh, yeah. That's so relatable. Trying to balance, work or studies and your personal well-being, it can be tough. Did anyone else share anything interesting?
Yeah, definitely. Someone else wrote about the joy they find in playing the piano. They described it as like a way to express their emotions and tap into their creativity. They even mentioned practicing every evening after school, which shows real dedication.
I love that. Music can be such a powerful form of self-expression. It's almost like its own language in a way. What other gems did you find in the forum?
One response that really resonated with me was about listening to podcasts before bed. They talked about wanting to like break the habit of scrolling through social media late at night and instead finding comfort and escape in, the world of audio stories.
Oh, I've been there. Replacing that mindless scrolling with something more engaging, more thought-provoking, it can be a real game changer.
It's interesting, isn't it? Even though like all these routines in this forum are different, they all kind of highlight like the personal significance we attach to certain activities. It's not just about what we do, but why we do it.
Yeah, I'm seeing a common thread here. It's about how our daily routines actually reflect our values, our passions, even our goals. Whether it's prioritizing mindfulness, pursuing creative outlets, or seeking intellectual stimulation. These routines, they shape our days and ultimately they shape our lives.
Exactly. And remember, your routine, it's not set in stone. It can evolve as your life changes and you discover new interests. It's a journey, not a destination.
So what does all of this mean for our listener who wants to talk about their daily routine in English? What's the takeaway?
It means they have the power to create a routine that truly reflects who they are. We've seen routines built around work, studies, family, hobbies, self-care. The possibilities are really endless.
It's about finding what works for you and then using the right phrases, the right language to describe it in a way that's engaging, in a way that connects with people. Speaking of which, our deep dive is coming to an end here. But before we go, I want to leave our listener with something to think about.
Now that you've explored all these different aspects of daily routines, imagine explaining your day to someone in English. What details would you share to make it interesting? What activities would you highlight? What phrases would you use to really capture the essence of your day?
Think about it. This is your chance to put everything we've talked about into practice and really paint a vivid picture of your daily life. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into daily routines. We hope you feel inspired and equipped to confidently talk about your day in English.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep sharing your story.